Welcome to Two Bitches and a Broom podcast. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode, number 30. And the topic of discussion that we're going to get into today is spirituality as a trend, or is spirituality a trend?
Yeah.
All of this. So yeah, I've been seeing this quite a bit actually, as a hot topic lately. So I thought it would be good,
No, I
interesting
think
for
that's
us to
really
like
good.
share our view, our thoughts on this topic.
Yeah.
When I feel like that, as far as like what I've seen is for the masses, can be like a fine line between genuine spirituality and trend-based
Hmm.
things. I do feel like spirituality is turned into, what is it called? Like a fad, a trend, a thing, a hot
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there has spirituality has seen like this resurgence in popularity, and it's weaved its way into a lot of different aspects of just the Western world, our lifestyle. But I also believe that it reflects this desire with a lot of people to find a deeper meaning, a purpose, a connection.
Mhm.
Um, but is that bordering, the question here is that bordering, this trend, in our contemporary society? Is it going to be like bell bottoms? Is that what it's going to be? How long is it going to last? I'm
Right.
hoping it sticks around, but yeah.
I do. So this is the thing, and I know any of my clients and my students or anyone who knows me, if you've ever had a conversation with me in these past 3 years,
Mhm.
I say this a lot. I do feel like I do see the drive, like what you're saying of it really is stemming from the need for people to understand themselves. The way that I see it too is the more that the veil starts to thin and drop, the more that again, truth and authenticity is the main thing, kind of the main scheme of life right now. So the more that that happens, the more people are wanting to understand themselves, their purpose, their life, existence, which I think is fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's the beautiful side about it because it's leading each person into understanding their own divine power
Yeah,
and their own divinity, which is I'm all for it.
yeah.
I think it turns into like that trendy aspect when so many, I don't know, this might sound a little bit mean, but when so many people just grab onto that part, like the good vibes only, stuff like that, and they're not really doing the work that comes behind it.
Mhm.
That's where, to me, that's where that trend piece starts to come into play. Oh, you're not really doing the work. It's just cool to
Yeah,
be, you know?
yeah, I agree. I think I've just been around for so long to see the Crypt Keeper, right? I've seen um some pretty massive changes, and I'm excited. Don't get me wrong, I'm really, really excited. But when we start to pull away from unity is when I start to question why. And
Mhm.
unity, that I mean, that is the essence of spirituality. It's the essence of a lot of religious structures as well. The unified one. Um, the last book of Revelation speaks on that,
Mhm.
in the Christian Judeo Holy Bible, it speaks on that.
Right, right.
And when I started to see apps replace ancient practices. That's when I went, that's interesting. Because it does indicate we start to have apps, there's this interest in mindfulness and meditation practices. But I think stuff is lost when you lose that personal connection. And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm not. And I think anything that can help somebody is a great thing. Um,
Mhm.
but when you start to say, I promise this will do this, reduce your stress, improve focus,
Mhm.
enhance well-being, that's when I start to go, you know, because the only one that can promise that is you,
Well, yeah, and I
you
mean, I
know?
was just gonna say that you
Yeah.
can't promise anything,
Yeah.
any result
Yeah.
in my belief structure. You can't promise anything to anyone because it's not your path to walk, it's not your choice to make.
Yeah.
You can give them all the tools, sure,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean that they have to do it. Or it's kind of like how I think of, and I don't know if we've spoken about this part in just in being healers and in holding space for people,
Mhm.
not the fix me
Yeah.
person. If you're
Yeah.
looking for me to fix you, I'm not going to do that for you. I will absolutely hold space and do everything within me to hold that space. But that's like, girlfriend, that's between you and God.
Yeah.
What you're going to do for
Yeah.
your path. Yeah, I agree. I think that having access to so many outlets is fantastic. But when you start making promises or, you know,
Yeah.
negating traditional ways, I think it's a blend. It should be a blend of as we progress as a society, but also a
How can
blend.
you utilize these ancient
Yeah.
techniques in a modern
ab-
day fashion to help you grow? That's what it should be about.
Yeah.
I do not believe, as a practitioner, I don't take my hat off, my practitioner hat, and go, this is who I am, and then put my hat on when I'm going
Right, right.
to work. I am this way all the time, 24/7. There is no difference in
Mhm.
there's no separation between my practice and who I am because I am my practice. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
think there has been some of that lost in the translation. I also think you don't have to look much farther than the practice of yoga to
Mhm.
see that um, people have taken that as I'm going to get healthy and do yoga. It is an ancient spiritual discipline originating from India, and
Mhm.
it has become this global phenomenon for physical exercise, you
Mhm.
know, but it was intended for spiritual and mental health, you
Mhm.
know?
Right, right.
Um, so you don't have to look much farther than that. Now, I'm not begrudging anybody from doing that. I'm just saying let's not forget the the basis. So it's cool if you want to take that and put it into our modern practice, but you can't like, I'm gonna select this and leave all that behind, you
Right.
know?
Can't
Uh,
I don't feel like you should cherry pick what you're going to do and what you're going to pull out,
yeah,
from, yeah, yoga is a great one because it's
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
Uh, and it's like, and I do yoga, I take a bunch of classes and I've done stuff. And people forget that part, that there's a reason that this practice was created.
Mhm.
It's created not so you can conquer these poses and look cute
Yeah,
doing them.
yeah.
It is about the mind and body connection and the syncing of the two and your
Yeah.
breath, your intention, like moving through those energy centers. Like it's all purposeful,
It is.
and
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
engaging your vagus nerve through all of those poses. I mean, the mechanics behind it, I think, are not well known. I'm not saying completely, but I don't think they're not well known to most. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people that employ that practice, they're like, wow, I feel so calm. I love this. I feel more flexible in my body, but they don't understand you're moving energy in your body, and that's why you're more flexible. You're engaging that vagus nerve, and that's why you feel calmer. You're releasing a lot of emotions and traumas that have been built
Mhm.
up energetically in the body. I think that portion is lost to some people, and I feel like it's sad. I feel really sad when I think about it, because it's like, if they knew that, would they still engage in the practice? Would they do it because they want to achieve those things?
Right, right. Well, the thing that gets me is, and yoga, oh gosh, like the list is aplenty. Yoga, sound baths, meditation circles, drum
Sure.
circles, all of the stuff. I've attended a wide variety of things, and they're all good and great. I'm not knocking it, not at all. But what's unfortunate for me, when a few, not every time either, but when I have experienced, is you'll have that they'll attend those practices or those classes, right? Those events, and then feel super great, all zen and all grounded and all kumbaya and shit and everything. And then I've seen them turn around and then just gossip, 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 or talk about this or that. And I'm just like, that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks because, again, all of these things were created with in specific intention of oneness and within self, of
Right.
moving energy, of peace within self. And I feel like maybe this is just me and how I think, but if you are going to engage in those things, shouldn't that ripple out into your everyday life? Shouldn't that be a reflection of the shift within yourself on a permanent thing, not just at this one event? Like what you were saying, like, you
Mhm.
don't take your hat off and, well, I'm clocked out for the day. I'm going to go, this, and I'm then, oh, well, Monday through Friday from 9 to 5, I am, shaman and
Yeah.
12
It
hours,
doesn't work that way.
you
It
know,
doesn't, it doesn't
it
work
doesn't
that
work
way.
that way. That's not how it, and I feel like these practices that are hitting the mainstream have such great opportunity to initiate, oh, at least open the door to initiate these awarenesses within people.
Hmm.
When you fall into just, that it's just the popular thing to do, and then you do it while you feel great and you do it while you're there, and maybe that endorphin hit lasts like 30 minutes after, and then you're right back to the same stuff. But
Right.
those are the same kind of individuals that come across that always wonder why they are in the same position.
Mhm.
Well, this is supposed to help me. It's not helping me. Is it not helping you, or are you not helping you?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So yeah,
I
that's
You can also see, at least in my opinion, again, been doing this forever, and now there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of crystal brokers.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
I think it's gained a lot of popularity. And crystals do have healing properties. But I've
Mhm.
seen people who have said, this stone, it's going, okay, I'm going to use moldavite for an example, because I'm sure every single human being has heard this.
That was a
Yeah.
popular, or still is, it's coming back actually as a popular trend. I've seen some talks about
Yeah.
it.
I have worn moldavite for decades, decades, every day, all day for decades. It does not come off. And I am telling you, some of the stuff I have heard about moldavite, it's going to destroy your life. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. My life is great. My life is fantastic. My life is wonderful. Moldavite is a very high vibrational stone, and some people can tolerate it and some people can't. And what I
Mhm,
mean by that is that it will have a tendency to pull your energy more up in this level of your body. Okay.
mhm.
And because of my work, I enjoy that because it's helping me to access those higher dimensions more.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean my life is going to come crashing down around me. If your life is crashing down around you, then that is because those things needed to be removed from you to pursue in your path, in your destination in life.
Mhm.
The stone itself isn't doing anything. It is you connecting with that energy of that stone, and it's benefiting you in what you are choosing to pursue in your path. I
Mhm.
think that's lost in translation. And it's like selling vacuum cleaners at this point to me. It's like, gosh,
Yeah, yeah.
what a shame. Because they do have some really beautiful benefits and qualities, but I believe there is a misrepresentation that comes along with it. I don't see anybody talking about how to connect with that stone. Nobody talks about that. How nobody talks about the energy of it. Nobody talks about how important it is to cleanse that energy, um,
Mhm.
or how to even.
Right, right.
So I think that there is um people who want to incorporate them in their life, and that's fantastic, but there's a misrepresentation.
Mhm.
Everybody has one. But do you know what it does? Have you connected with it? How are you best utilizing it? There's just stuff that's lost.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a trend. I do. I think it's a trend, and a lot of people are doing it because they've seen it or it's been um, advertised as such, and they want to be cool too.
Mhm. Yeah. I
I
I
am so
I
uncomfortable
agree.
saying that,
Well,
but
it's a,
I'm not
you
trying to
think,
pass judgment.
but you take even like the Moldavite, right? Because you've seen it, it was exploding, it exploded at one point, and
Mhm.
then it kind of faded out, and now it's making its way back. It just keeps popping up. I've seen it coming back up.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people talk about, and I too, I carry Moldavite every
Yeah.
single day,
Yeah.
for the longest time. And I've seen so many people losing their shit because it's destroyed so much of their life, or like the warning of it. And when it comes to, I th and again,
Look,
this,
if I believe that if I write with this pen,
right.
I'm going to be a master at writing, congratulations, I am. I just gave
Well,
this the energy.
exactly. That's what I was
Yeah.
just gonna say. Like
You
with
know?
the popularity that and the reputation that Moldavite has garnered through this trend, well, if other people keep seeing it and, oh, this is life changing,
Mhm.
then what do you think your intention is when you went to go purchase that?
Sure.
You bought it, and this is your Moldavite. So you bought it and you were like, this is going to change my life.
Yeah,
You just gave that intention and that power to that stone, right? To
very
that
much
piece.
so. Very much
And
so.
it's all how, how many times do we experience those that, and even ourselves, where going through transitions,
Mhm.
never going to be the things that you thought.
And there was a lot of fake Moldavite out there. Like,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I saw like people that were selling it, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, no, friend, that is glass.
I've
That
seen that
is
too.
glass.
Moldavite is a pretty penny if you're going to invest
Oh
in
yeah.
that.
I mean,
And
I bought mine
God,
so long ago, and I don't know, it's a couple $100 and I've got a very large piece. And if I was to buy that on today's market, it would be thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And it is strictly because of the popularity of it. It's not any,
Yeah.
and because there's less resources of it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the
It's like
reality
that
is,
with the Super Seven. So
yeah,
Super Seven came, and then you see
yeah.
it everywhere. And I look at
I
some.
wear Super 7. I
Mhm.
wear a Super 7, you know. And now again, the same thing. If I was to go and try, which one is it? If I was to go and try to purchase one, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be anywhere from 300 to $600 if you're getting one as jewelry, because I'm a jewelry nerd.
Uh-huh.
So this right here, it's a big chunk of Super 7. I just thought of that. So it's a big
Mhm.
chunk of Super 7, right? This was gifted to me, but I think if I was to buy this, it would probably be a couple of grand,
Oh
you
yeah. Yeah.
know? But when it was gifted to me, it wasn't like that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Um, it's interesting because there's, get this is going to do X, Y, and Z. And they, okay, let's do this. It's going to change. I really encourage everybody to do your own research on it. Look at it, don't go by what other people, not even me, don't go by what anybody else is saying. Go through, there's so many wonderful authors that will give you a ton of information in regards to stones. Um, Hall, Hall, fabulous
Yeah.
genealogist, fabulous. You can't go wrong with following any information with that. I'm not discounting anybody else, but my brain, it's retrograde.
Uh-huh.
Bear with me, but my brain, that's the only one that's popping up in my head right now.
That's a good one because that's a easy to find, and at least in any metaphysical store I've been in, just in my location, I know you'll find one of those books
Yeah,
there, and you can look at it, read about it. And I feel like, again, like with the trends, when people just hop on so quickly to that,
sure.
is that even something that you need for your journey? It may be
Yeah,
something that's helping others, but is it what you need? Is it going to benefit you? And,
exactly.
you
There
know,
are people spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars for amethyst. Amethyst is
oh
abundant,
gosh, yeah.
our world, abundant. And
Hmm.
if you knew that there was many mines that actually carry amethyst, you would go, well, that doesn't make good sense. Why would I spend, $300 to $400 on a pair of amethyst earrings
Right, right.
when, you know, literally you can find a place in North Carolina because they have a wonderful amethyst mine there.
Yeah. You can go
And
pick some up yourself if you
yeah,
want to go.
and you can literally order them offline for $50. And that's
Hmm.
with shipping, bro. So,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So there's just unfortunately, I think it's perpetuated within the spiritual community. And
Mhm.
that's sad. It is. It
I
is.
agree.
I think
It
it's
is.
perpetuated.
It's unfortunate that it's like that. And the way that I kind of think of it is, humanity always kind of goes from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other end. And then at some point, we find our way back to the middle.
Mhm.
And I've seen this with individuals I've spoken to of um, jumping on so many bandwagons of even coaches, mentors, all of these things. I feel like that's also part of, in the metaphysical community, a
Mhm.
trend too.
Yes,
Manifestation
it is.
coach, this
I agree.
coach, that coach, and don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking anybody in their practice and what they do at all, but I feel like, again, I am a firm believer you are only as impactful as the work you do yourself.
Yeah.
You can't cookie cutter a process and expect such drastic results. That's just my belief. That's just my way of practicing. And even with that, again, I feel like truth and authenticity, we are in that time frame where all in the dark must come to light. So
Yeah.
if you're not genuine in your practice and you are not doing the work yourself to where you're supposed to be, it's going to show.
Right.
And I do feel like it is going to be revealed really who's genuine and who's not, who's in just for a quick buck, and who's not. Just like with the crystal community too, we find everybody's a seller now, and because of that, there is this push, which then leads to so many people now starting to question, well, is this real or is this a fake?
Mhm.
You know, so.
I also think, in my opinion, there are a lot of people that I know of that I've actually spoken to about this. And there are a lot of use of spiritual symbols or motifs in clothing, jewelry, even
Mhm,
in home decor, that has, the Hamzahan mandalas.
mhm, mhm.
Evil eye in particular is very popular. And people are using it because they're like, this is protection, but that's all they know.
Right,
That's
right.
it. And I think that if you're going to borrow something from a culture, at least know what it is.
Right. At least do your due
Yeah,
diligence.
at least know what it is, other than it's for protection. You know
Right.
what I mean? Um, and I've seen that quite a bit too. I think it's very dangerous territory. And maybe that's just me. I think it's very dangerous to just take something at its surface value because somebody said it. I believe that we have to do our own due diligence.
Mhm.
And, I'm not going to put a word, I saw this, I'm sorry, but I saw somebody take a Hebrew word, and I speak Latin, I know Hebrew. So I'm looking at this word and they actually made the symbology wrong. And they're like, put this up in your house for protection. And this is going to be fantastic for you. And I'm like, that is literally nothing. That is nothing. And there are people who are literally cutting it out and painting it on their wall. And I'm like, I hope nobody gets that tattoo. You know what I mean?
Oh, somebody will.
Legitimately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what went through my mind. No, do your research, plug it in, take a picture of it. This is something you can do. Plug it in, take a picture to plug it into Google, do an image search, do
Mhm.
your own due diligence before you do something like that. Because just because somebody read a book or they have heard it from someone does not mean it's accurate and true.
Mhm.
A lot of that going around.
Yeah.
There's so much of that. Not knocking anybody's belief or profession, or I think people are doing it with good intention. Like, I found this out, this is so great, I want to share, but it's
Mhm.
misguided information, unfortunately. In
Mhm.
my opinion, it's very misguided. And it not that that instance it's harmful, but for somebody who feels they're under spiritual warfare and they're like, this is going to help me, they will then blame universal energies for not protecting them.
right. Yeah,
when it was improper. So it is harmful in that context.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think of that way when I see in the spell work practice and social media
Mhm.
of half half information, half truths. But when you put it out there again with the trend of spirituality and the trend of casting and candle magic and all of
Mhm.
that stuff, it's to me that when I see that, I think, you know, again, like you were saying, they're going to do that hoping they get this result. And when said result doesn't happen, because some of those things I look at and I'm like, you're missing a bunch of stuff.
Well,
And it's
yeah, that's
not,
what keeps me in business
yeah,
because botched
right,
jobs, botched spells, they'll contact me and like, can you help me? Yeah, I
right,
can, but why did you do it?
right.
What
So
were
it's
you?
what were you doing? Like, what was your intention? And then you have to think too, my mind goes, that boomerang friend is gonna be like right back to you. But then again, those you find individuals like that
Mhm.
that end up blaming universal energy, source energy, whatever have you,
Sure,
of not supporting or things going wrong, stuff like that.
sure.
But it's because you saw a video that gave you 30% of the information or
Mhm.
things. And don't get me wrong, again, not we are not dogging on anybody's practice whatsoever. This
Mhm.
is just based off of what I see, how we get I'm confident in saying how we both get contacted
Ah,
for
oh,
cleanup of a lot of things. And the intention could very well be from someone who gained that information some kind of way and wanted to share it or thought they were helping by sharing it. And individuals, especially right now, where I feel like there are so many people desperate for understanding and connection and lost in the sauce, because again, everything is getting ripped away, truths are being revealed. It leaves a lot of people confused and not sure and reaching.
I will say, I literally just had this client and I'm struggling with how I can approach this without breaking confidentiality. So I'm going to be extremely vague in my description. But this person had watched something, a video, and said, do this, and this will assist you. I'm
Mhm.
not going to talk about what it is because I don't want anybody to do it.
Right, right.
So yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I will tell you that when you take away free will from anybody, my God, you better you woo, it's not good. It's not good. That's one thing that we're all granted. It's one thing that we're all gifted, and it's one thing that universal energy does not approve of is taking away our free will. So you can imagine how upset um, that energy can be when you step over that line, right?
Mhm.
And that's where we get the adages of the law of three, threefold, all of that jazz, because when you do that, when you are taking something away, like free will, it will come back to you threefold. That
Mhm.
is where that adage comes from. And that's, I'm just describing one belief system. It's varied among many. So this person um had her job. We're literally on the verge of a catastrophe there. Relationship completely got destroyed in the worst way imaginable. Um, in the middle of a lawsuit, police have been involved. Lots of horrible, awful, minor events involved in that as well. And all of this unfolded within that period of time. Everything was fine up until this period of time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Just because somebody made a video, you know what? This is what I encourage everybody to do. Talk to, if you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this or I'm thinking about doing that, talk to somebody who is a seasoned practitioner.
Mhm.
Okay. And what I mean by that, who's been doing it for a long time, not for a couple of years, not since, 2018.
Mhm.
Anybody prior, like talk to seasoned long-term practitioners. Um, send Krys or myself a little email, you know, and just say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? Run it by somebody before you do it, because I guarantee, I don't care who, any seasoned practitioner, they will tell you, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
They're not going to encourage it. They definitely
No, I actually, that's funny. I had about 5 conversations probably this week with that same sentiment of I was contacted
Mhm.
questioning doing certain things.
Yeah,
And yeah, my answer was that
yeah,
is really what you want to do. And we have to remember that
yeah,
is still taking away free will of another individual. There are repercussions
yeah,
for said choice,
yeah,
kind of thing. And it is like when you see stuff like that, sit, I know people are probably really gung ho about it because it's all over social media, it's all over everywhere,
mhm,
and everything sounds so enticing, like a quick fix.
mhm.
Everything sounds so sparkly and really like a shiny new toy.
Yeah,
But just sit with it. Ask yourself, is this really something that I really want to engage in? Does it feel, are you coming from an emotional space?
sure.
Are you coming from, that higher self space?
Yeah,
How are you responding? Is this an emotionally triggered response?
yeah,
Or is that a higher, because I would bet all the pennies in my drawer that there is not, you'd be pressed to find a higher self response for something like that,
yeah.
you know?
I think that we, as a society, are very reactionary,
Mhm.
you know? And I think if you are delving into the world of spirituality, you are employed to be non-reactionary. So if
Mhm.
you were to take the emotion out of the situation, would you still want to make the same choices?
Right.
You
Yeah,
know, if
exactly.
if you take the hurt, the pain, the sadness, and the anger out of it, and you look at it for what it is, would you still have the same desire? And I don't believe you would. I don't believe you would. God, Great Spirit, the big kahuna, whoever you want to call your
Mhm.
deity, your God, um, everything that is chosen in your path and life isn't to torture you. It
Right.
isn't to make you hate your life, or it isn't to make you feel like I'm so held back. It's breadcrumbs leading you down a path, and you're going to lose things. To
Mhm.
everyone listening, you are going to lose things in your life. You really will. And it doesn't seem that way at that moment. And that moment, you are going to feel, I lack, I am without. But in
Mhm.
5 years, you will look back and you will realize that God had bigger plans for you,
Mhm.
plans that you didn't even know existed. And that loss was a blessing, and you just didn't
Exactly.
realize it. And that
Exactly.
goes for people, places, careers, homes, everything. It really is. I've been doing this for many, many, many years, and I've had losses too. And it doesn't mean that I was like, yay me, a loss. No,
Right.
that wasn't it. But every single time I can look back and go, wow, that was fantastic. And as the years progressed, when those losses came, I realized, okay, that went away, so a new door can open and something better can come in. I
Mhm,
had to make room. Think of it like your closet. You have all these
mhm,
clothes full, shoved in there. You got to take some out so you can find something that will look better, feel better, fit you more appropriately in this stage of your life, you
mhm.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is a really great analogy. And, it is so true. And that's kind of how I point it to people too, of you have to make space for new. Every time something goes, that just makes space for something else to come, something better, right?
Yeah.
And if we are progressing on our own individual paths, so you having the intention to, for whoever's listening or watching this, if you have the intention to really start to know thyself and to do the internal work, your vibration is going to automatically start shifting because you're purging, you're cleaning out your closets.
Yeah.
You're purging
Yeah.
is internal and external.
Hmm.
So you're going to change in the inside. It is natural progression. Things in your outside world will shift as well. So not everybody or everything can maintain staying in your playground, in your radar when
Right.
you do that.
Hmm.
It's not and it's nothing to those people in your life or those things. It simply just means they are no longer a vibrational match and it's time to separate. I think we, like human nature, we want to hold on so tightly to everything,
Oh, yeah.
everyone, because we become comfortable,
Yeah.
right?
Mine.
It needs control.
I did this meme where this lady was holding a garbage can when I was doing
Mhm.
a lecture. And I said, this is us and our trauma. We want to hold on to it so
Right.
badly. It's my garbage. It's my trauma,
Right.
And we don't even want to let that go, you know?
Right. Well,
Yeah.
for some people too, with that, it like creates your sense of identity. You've cultivated a sense of identity around it. It's hard to let that go because then who are you after that? Who are you beyond that?
Yeah.
And when you want to do your inner work, you want to understand yourself, you want to find your centeredness and your connection. It's kind of like the same thing. You're figuring out who you are beyond the phases and masks that you wore before. Um, and all of those correlated to the people currently in your existence. Not saying everybody's going to leave your life, but there has to be an element of surrender,
Hmm.
allow source, God, spirit, to make those changes and adjust your frequency internally and externally.
Absolutely.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. It's all a good thing. It doesn't feel good in the moment. And
Yeah.
none of us have ever sat in it and was like like what Charlie was saying, yay me. No, at least I sat in there like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
But looking back, you see how all of those things just came into play and how all of it kind of lined up to where you're at now.
Mhm.
That's a that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, it is. I do want to make it clear, I would never in a million years want someone to judge me or my practices. And this episode is not to pass judgment.
Yeah.
This is all about educating, right? And I believe that with knowledge comes power. I say that all the time.
Mhm.
And it's don't take anything for face value. And
Exactly.
I know we're on here, we have a podcast and we're giving information, and that includes us, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
do your research. And this is very much on my heart. Um, I didn't actually realize as much as it is until we started to do this, but I think it's so important. I think we are in very unusual, transforming times, and a lot of people are awake,
Mhm,
and a lot of people are like, now what? And not everybody has the financial means or the resources to further develop. And there's a lot of free information online. And
mhm.
I think that's a blessing for a lot of people. But I encourage you to do your research before you apply any of this gifted knowledge.
Mhm,
Just do your
mhm.
research.
Oh, wow.
I just had to say that because I don't want
Yeah,
people
no, actually, you took the words out of my mouth. I was
like,
this
oh
has
my
to
gosh,
know.
this is a bashing session. It's
This is
really,
not a
really
bashing
not.
session.
No.
It's sharing information and education between the two of us that we see and we deal with on in our own practice for, again, like botched things or, misguided things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, anything that you choose to honor or want to know more about or want to try for yourself, including, and I say this all the time, I know Charlie says this all the time too, even to clients and students, sit with your guides, sit
Mhm.
with yourself. Don't take
Yep.
even what I say as, you know, truth in stone. Sit with yourself, sit with your team, sit
Yes.
with your God, talk about it. How do you truly feel about it? And I feel like that goes for anything in the metaphysical community or any practice that you want to um, put into your own life. Sit with it, research about it, learn about it, its origins. What are you truly, the way I see it too is what are you truly honoring doing said practice?
Right.
Using symbols, using, even in anything, it really doesn't matter. Anything that you do,
Mhm.
look it up because you are honoring a practice from before you. Wouldn't you want to ensure that you are doing it with the utmost integrity and like respect? That's just how I see it.
Sure.
So, this is not, everyone has their own practice, everyone's walking their own path. Que sera, sera, peace be on your journey kind of thing. This is not a bashing session at all, but
Right.
hopefully somebody gains, insightful information and at least if anything, walks away from this episode with a different lens now looking at all of the stuff that you see because information on the interwebs is fantastic. You can find anything about anything now, but it can also be a little bit dangerous too at the same time.
Right. Right.
Just like humans always have to mess things up. So we
Right.
can't be nice.
I
So,
I do. I think that with our modern um society, with, I hate to use the trend, but the trends of the apps, the yoga classes, the crystal healing, um, even spiritual tourism, astrology, tarot,
right.
nature worship, mindful eating, alternative healing practices, spiritual workshops, spiritual symbolism, like we were talking about. They're all examples that are illustrating this wonderfully diverse ways in which spirituality has permeated our
Mhm.
culture. And it is reflecting this collective yearning for meaning, connection, this personal growth in our
Right.
rapidly changing world. And we are excited for that. We just want to make sure that you understand knowledge is power while you're incorporating that into your own practice.
Mhm. Agreed.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
better said very, very well. So any final thoughts other than that you want to add in for this episode?
Nope, nope, that was it. Sorry. That just came really like a download. I don't know if you could
No,
tell, but it was just like,
yeah.
ooh.
But
Yeah.
it is, it's a very great point. I hope each person that watches this or listens to this receives something useful. And again, if anything, at least let this be a little reminder to sit with self of any practice. All of this is great. I'm so excited to see each individual soul kind of have the opportunity to move in their alignment, in their
Mhm,
path, and recognize they hold their own divine power.
mhm,
That's so amazing. And there's so many ways to go about it nowadays, which
mhm.
is fantastic. It's all intended to bring us all back to understanding of oneness as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
that you
absolutely.
can't be
I'm
mad at
glad
that.
you pointed that
Yeah,
out again because that's really what it is.
yeah, you can't be mad at that.
The
So
moment I become separate from you is the moment that I am no longer in alignment with harmony with the universal will.
exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, that is really truly what all of this is about. Any practice that you want to incorporate in for yourself in your path, it's your business to do so. Just make sure you're doing it from heart-centered space. You do your research, you do
All
all
the knowledge,
all the knowledge,
pieces of it, all of it.
engulf yourself in the knowledge and the history of things and stuff, before it's knowledge is absolutely power. So yeah, I hope you find this helpful, those of you that are listening or watching. We appreciate your presence and your support. As always, we also appreciate the energetic exchange of like, commenting, and sharing, and questions if anybody has as well on topics they'd like to hear discuss, or their own experience of things that they question in relation to this topic or anything, leave
Yeah.
us a comment. Otherwise, I think we will wrap it up, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Bye-bye.